Whittington. There once was a boy named Dick Whittington who lived in the English countryside. Dick was very, very poor. He had no money to mend his shoes when they were worn out. He could never find much to eat. He didn't even have a home to take shelter when it rained. I need a job, he thought. So Dick looked for work. He asked boatmen, builders, and blacksmiths. But no one he met on his travels needed any help. One morning, Dick saw a farmer working in a field. "Can you give me a job?" he asked. "Sorry, nothing here, lad." "Why don't you try asking in London instead?" said the farmer. Dick had heard of London. It was a big city many miles away. "I have never been there myself," said the farmer. "But they say the streets were paved with gold." "Gold?" thought Dick. "I could make my fortune. Then I will buy fancy clothes, piles of yummy food, and a big house." He thanked the farmer and set off. Dick walked for miles and miles and miles. But when he arrived in London, he got a shock. The streets weren't made of gold at all. They were just plain old dirty stone, said Dick sadly. Dick had no choice but to look for work once more. He asked bakers and boot menders, but it was the same story as before. No one needed his help. Soon it started to get dark, so Dick searched for somewhere to spend the night. He curled up on the steps of a grand-looking house. It wasn't long before he was fast asleep. The next morning, Dick was woken by the sound of a very loud voice bellowed in his ear. "Catch up, my lovely clean steps." A woman was standing over him, waving a rolling pin. "Get out of here," she yelled. Before Dick could move, a richly dressed man came out of the house. "Go back to your work, Mrs. Curry." "Are you all right, son?" he asked. "Do come inside." Dick had never been in such a fine house before. It was full of the most beautiful things he had ever seen. "Welcome to my home," said the man. "My name is Mr. Fitzwarren, and I am a trader. My ships buy and sell things all over the world." He showed Dick a chair from France, a vase from China, and a statue from Africa, and even a big wooden chest all the way from India. "Wow," said Dick. After Mr. Fitzwarren had heard Dick's story, he felt sorry for the young boy. So he gave him a job in his kitchen. Dick spent the day washing pots, cleaning floors, and peeling carrots. It was long, hard work. But Dick was happy with his new life, and all the other servants in the house were kind to him. Well, almost all. After his first day's work, one of the kitchen maids showed Dick to the attic at the very top of the house. He had never had a room of his own before. The attic was small, but Dick didn't mind. He climbed into bed and snuggled under a big warm blanket. But just as he began to fall asleep, he heard a loud squeak. It was coming from down below. Dick peered over the edge of the bed. Suddenly, a mouse squeezed out of a hole in the floorboards, followed by another and another. Soon the attic was full of noisy mice. They couldn't get a wink of sleep. It was the same thing every night. At first, all was quiet, but just as Dick's head hit the pillow, the mice came out of their hidey holes. The annoying mice were driving Dick crazy. "I must get rid of them," he thought, "or I will never get to sleep again." A week later, Mr. Fitzwarren gave Dick his first ever pay. Dick couldn't wait to go out and spend his hard-earned money. That afternoon, Dick visited the city market. There were hundreds of stores, all packed with goodies. Then, on the far side of the market, he spotted just the thing he needed. "A cat will keep those mice away," thought Dick, taking out his pen. He handed over his week's wages to the stallholder. Then he chose the biggest cat from the basket and ran home. "I will call you Tom. We will show those pesky mice," said Dick, stroking his new friend Tom. That night, the mice appeared as usual, but this time Dick was ready for them. Tom darted around the room and chased the mice back into their holes. Dick breathed a sigh of relief. At last, I can get a good night's rest, he thought to himself. Dick and Tom curled up together and were soon sound asleep. The next day, Mr. Fitzwarren gathered the servants together in his study. Dick wondered what he was going to say. One of my ships is going on a trading trip, announced Mr. Fitzwarren. If you have anything you want to sell, it can go on the ship. She sails at 6 o'clock tonight. Dick thought for a moment. He only had one thing to sell, his cat. Maybe he wouldn't need Tom now. All the mice were gone. Perhaps some will give me 2 pennies for him, thought Dick. He put Tom onto the cart that was going to Mr. Fitzwarren's ship. But as it drove away, Dick began to wonder if he had done the right thing. That night, Dick couldn't sleep. He felt bad about selling Tom, and now the mice were back too. The next day, Dick wandered around the house in a sleepy daze. Wake up, you lazy boy, growled Mrs. Curry, the cook. Work harder, or I will report you to Mr. Fitzwarren. From then on, Mrs. Curry made Dick work twice as hard as anyone else. After a month of Mrs. Curry's nagging, Dick was fed up. I'm going back to the countryside, he thought to himself. So eagerly one morning, he slipped quietly out of the house before anyone else was awake. He walked and walked until he reached the outskirts of London. Just then, the church's bell rang out. That's strange, thought Dick, pricking up his ears. The bells sound like they're calling to me. Turn again, Whittington, thrice Mayor of London. Dick was amazed. They seem to be telling me to go back. And they are saying I will be the Mayor of London 3 times. How odd. Dick could hardly believe his ears. But he went back to Fitzwarren's house all the same. When he got there, he found Mr. Fitzwarren waiting for him on the doorstep. Congratulations, Dick, boomed Mr. Fitzwarren, holding up 2 bulging bags. You are a very rich young man. Rich? Me? How? The King of Barbary. What your catch? Explained Mr. Fitzwarren. His palace was full of mice, continued Dick's old boss. Don't tease them off. Mr. Fitzwarren handed Dick the 2 bags. When he opened them, Dick found they were stuffed full of shiny gold coins. They are all yours, said Mr. Fitzwarren. Dick used the money to buy and sell things, just like Mr. Fitzwarren. He was a big success. By the time he had grown up, Dick was one of the richest men in the city. What's more, the bells were right. Dick did become the Mayor of London 3 times. And he was the best one ever. Did you enjoy the story? If yes, then like, share and subscribe.